Goatify your dental practice for you. What does that mean? I'm here with my good friend and Nacho sponsor, Dr. Chris Phelps. We were OG friend before a lot of this started, hanging out at Academy of Dental Management Consultants back in, I believe, 2017 or 2018. I've always admired and respected what Chris does inside and outside the operatory. He knows a lot about case acceptance, clinical dentistry, and wine. I've always respected that about him too. So Dr. Chris Phelps, you've been on with us in the past, but just share with our audience a little bit about your story. Give us 2 minutes, like a 2-minute drill of your dental story, your consulting story, where you live, things like that.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. Have been a private practice owner of multiple dental practices over the last 20 years. Hard to believe it's my 20th year in dentistry. But the short answer is I've discovered about myself is I'm an entrepreneur who happens to be a pretty good dentist. And I realized that while my initial passion was to be at the chair and take care of my patients, my actions kept pulling me further and further away from the chair and growing multiple fee-for-service offices here in Charlotte, and then transitioning to building other companies. In essence, basically, I figured out I'm pretty good at solving problems. And more importantly, especially if it's my own problem, I'm going to figure it out, but I'm actually pretty good at solving other people's problems as well. So it was a natural transition for me when people started reaching out for help with their practices and to grow their practices. So today, that's kind of one of my main passions is there's a never ending supply of other people's problems to solve. And I'm happy to do it.
And sometimes people looking at your life situation after me from who's not you and is not emotionally invested in all the things that have happened to you is just magical. And I always share Dr. Dennis. I'm going to give Dr. Dennis Tarnow this credit. I know you know him. He's amazing. He knows, why do I fly around the country and speak? He said, why do I do this? Because when I help one dentist, they go and help thousands of patients. So when people say, Paul and Chris Phelps, you're only doing dentistry a couple of days a week, blah, blah, I say, but I get to help dentists help their patients. And that helps me help so many patients. And we're glad people like you exist. I have gotten help from that. And I just think what you bring to the table is that an authentic conversation about why asking for help is important. I mean, has this happened to you, Chris, or maybe your clients where they felt they had to figure it out all on their own and they're banging their head against a wall, but they didn't want to either spend the money, the time, the energy, or know that there was someone that could help? Has that been a story you've seen in dentistry?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I even found myself in that same situation, right? Having 4 offices, people by all accounts would have said I was successful, but it looked like I was juggling multiple things. But I don't care how good you are at any given thing. At some point, we all reach a ceiling, right? We all hit a wall that we just can't see around, right? Because we're too close to it and our perspective is skewed. And when we're too close to it, when we don't have time to rest and get, really recharge our brain, so to speak, these small fires seem like forest fires that we can't put out. And so getting to that point, that frustration, I've been there and I know what that feels like. And it's a bad place to be, when the good news is, with an unbiased opinion to a different perspective, to say, hey, instead of beating your head up against that wall, you could just go around it. Why don't we just do this or that? And look at there. Whoa, life could be so much better.
I love that. I mean, the kind of the theme here, I think you've heard me say I want to play in the NBA, but my dream didn't come true. But Vanessa from Dental Warranty, one of our sponsors, got me this Nacho basketball. But the logo on your shirt, there's a big GOAT conversation, greatest of all time. But what I want to talk about is the GOAT for you, because it's your practice. And maybe making $300,000 a year, working 3 days a week is your GOAT. Maybe owning 8 practices and making 7 figures a year is your GOAT, right? So you only determine what's the greatest of all time for you, not somebody else. Tell us about, I'm excited to hear about your coaching program, your consulting program. Who do you help? How does this work? I'm going to drop in the comments how people can reach out to you through Dental Nachos, but just give our audience kind of a summary of what you do with these practices to get them to you said good, better, best. Okay, great, good, great. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so speaking of GOATs, right, I've partnered with one of the GOATs of all time when it comes to practice coaching, Dr. Tony Feck. Some of you may have heard of Feck, who was one of the co-founders of DOCS, the Dental Organization for Conscious Sedation. But what you didn't know is Tony had created one of the pristine and elite coaching programs in the country, getting his doctors and taking practices from okay practices to really good practices, and really good practices to great practices, and great practices to help them reach a whole other level. And so when Tony asked me to join him, I was honored because that's what I love doing best. And so our team, it's called Sunrise Dental Solutions. That's what we do. Dentists who've been there and done that, coaching other dentists on how to reach their goals, whatever that is. And then training on leadership, team training, all the stuff that needs to supplement that to make your job easier, faster, more efficient, and to get you whatever your GOAT is.
Yeah, I love that. I was just giving these lectures on dental implants, and you're a dental implant fan, and I say, how many times have our patients said when they did a big implant case, I wish I did this sooner? And
Yeah.
it's 100% of the time. Paul, I wish I did this sooner. I'm glad you encouraged me to do it, because I say to patients who sit there with their teeth about to retire, not fail, and say, Millie, I've had patients just like you sitting in this chair, not sure if it was worth the money or the time. And let me share with you the story of Janice and why she's glad she did it and why she wished she did it sooner. I imagine, because dentists, it's not easy to be a dentist. We got a whole deserve level factor. Amanda C. talked about that. They don't want to hire an associate. They should do it all themselves, but they're driving everybody nuts, right? They don't want to hire a coach. Talk to me a little bit about these practice owners that come to you. Kind of, dentists are not the easiest at spending money sometimes, but then they spend money and they're glad they did it, just like our implant patients.
Yep.
What kind of transformations have you had with some of these practice owners?
One of the first questions I ask doctors when I start talking to them is, are you the type of person who learns through example, meaning advice, counsel? So if somebody tells you that don't touch that stove, it's hot, then you don't want to touch the stove. You're good. Okay. Or do you have to touch the stove despite being told it was too hot? You just got to see for yourself, kind of thing. And so usually those ones that are the most resistant to see coaching as a big expense and whatnot are the ones that just have to touch the stove. Right. And so the real question is, I ask them is, well, have you touched it enough? Are you ready to decide it's too hot for me? Right. It's not going to get cooler. So I need some help. So I actually love working with both sides of that coin. It's a lot easier, of course, for those that don't want to make those mistakes and haven't beaten their head up against the wall to just shortcut and get to their goals faster.
Right.
But it's really more fulfilling for those, like you said, when I hear those stories afterwards, they're like, why did I do that like that for so long when I could have been here a lot sooner and with a lot less headache?
Yeah, I love that. At the end of my, I'm having Dr. Lincoln Harris come to Philadelphia. We become close friends. And I ask people that are amazing like you and him, what do they wish they did sooner at the end of these things? And Link said, I wish I got coaching sooner. I wish I didn't try and figure out myself. I was messed up in the head. I don't know why I was trying to figure all this stuff out. I wish I got coaching sooner. So when people see someone like that and think they have it all together, and Link will tell you, I don't have it all together. I'll tell you, I don't have it all together, but maybe we've been through this process earlier, investing in coaching. Because I'll share with you, I don't remember really told this story. I wanted to quit all of this back in 2017. I said, I'm just going to be a dentist and lecture on implants. This Nacho stuff's distracting me. The practice coaching is distracting me. And I got a coach, and she said, you don't want to stop any of this. You needed to hire 2 full-time people. I don't know how you're doing this yourself. And it was transformed, but there would be no dental nachos. There'd be no 46,000 member Facebook group. My team would not have all these fancy sweatshirts to wear all the time around. So I walked that walk, and it was transformative to me. So you need people from outside this box. Before we wrap up, Chris, I just think this is important. There's so many challenging and tragic and sad stories happening in dentistry, from depression to death by suicide. How does this impact people's family, right? And it could just be a spouse. It could be a thing. How does your coaching, have you seen it impact their family? Something that doesn't show up on the EBITDA stat sheet, something that doesn't show up on the P&L. How does it affect them personally with their family?
Yeah, well, the big thing is they get back control. Okay. And I think a lot of the mental health issues that we're seeing out there that just are going to continue to worsen, unfortunately, is because everybody feels like they're out of control in their situation, in their practice, and their whatever. So when you are able to take the reins and you make the practice, if this is your goal, independent of you, and you get back your freedom of time and you have control of that, so you can now reinvest in your family and whatnot. I mean, you can't put a price tag on that, right? When I hear my doctor say, in the past, I couldn't take off time. We couldn't take family vacations because if I'm not there, the practice doesn't make money. And I'm like, man, that's sad. It doesn't have to be that way. Or, hey,
and they have to reframe it. You have to reframe these things, because what happens is, what's the difference between passion and obsession? Passion, helping your patients. Obsession, thinking you can't take off a Friday from 8 to 2 to do something with your kids. I mean, because you can. And that's an excuse to say the practice won't make money. It's an easy thing to say, but when you have a coach say, hey, you take off 10 Fridays a year, you're going to be glad that you did it. The practice is still going to make money. Your families, and what's poignant to me, Chris, and as I talk about dental, it's like, we did all this. So on the other side, we would have some freedom, right? I talked about one of my mentors, Carl Steinberg, financial fitness creates freedom, and financial fitness is, freedom for you. And it doesn't mean you're actually your K1 or your income. It just means when you have financial fitness in your practice, you create freedom. And it sounds like that's really what you're drilling into, to use a pun intended, with your clients.
Totally. And the big thing I tell them is this, because some people may be sitting out there right now thinking, well, yeah, but it won't work for me, right? Or I've tried coaching in the past or whatever, and it didn't work for me. Well, the truth of the matter is, if that's your attitude, then you're right. It's not going to work for you. Okay. You got to have the right commitment, right? If you're committed and you're ready to make some positive changes, then there's nothing that can get in your way.
Yeah, I think that's so key. I talk about AAJM. I'm a big fan of Gary Vee. He has attention on his shirt. I mean, so we're creating attention and awareness on this. That's the 2 A's. And then I talk about J, just find out, and momentum. So listen, somebody wants to lose weight. Somebody wants to save money. Someone wants to figure out more time with their kids. It feels overwhelming, right? It just does. I've been there. What's this just find out momentum for you? Can people do a free consult? Tell us about the offer you have for the community. Share with them. This is the next thing to do, guys.
Yeah, the easiest thing is, all I ask you to do is, let's spend an hour together. Tell me about your practice, what's going on, and let me see how I can help. Let me show you how we can help you get to around that barrier, whatever you're banging your head up against, and remove that obstacle altogether. And to do that, if you'll spend an hour with me, then we're willing to give you, the Nacho community, your choice of a couple of books. Because yes, there are still books out there and they are still helpful.
You know where I like to read the book, Chris? On the plane when it takes off. I'm not joking. When the plane takes off and lands, I got to put my laptop down. I actually open up a real book. I want to tell you your book, but it's a great time to get in 30 minutes of reading, but I'll go back to you.
It's totally. So you can either get a free copy of Dr. Feck's book, The Prosperous Dental Practice, which if for those do-it-yourselfers out there, if you don't need to touch the stove, hey, get Tony Feck's book. It's the Bible on systems for your dental practice, and you'll thank me later. Or you can get a copy of my new textbook on dental marketing called The Complete Book on Dental Marketing. Everything I've learned over the last 20 years, marketing, fee-for-service practices, and other types of practices to reach whatever new patient goal you need to hit, but actually getting a return for that investment. So all yours, one of those free. All you have to do is let's spend an hour together.
Awesome. You guys text Phelps to 215-543-6454. My team will also drop in the comments how you can reach out to us to get that deal. And I know you like stories, Chris, and I was having a glass of Cabernet, so it's a good start. So I was finished my Seattle Study Club lecture. I go back to the hotel last week. I'm telling my team about this exactly. And I kind of want to sit and just be by myself, right? Because I'm lecturing, I'm running around, but I don't mind. I'm friendly. And a guy sits down next to me and just looks at me and goes, "Do you do anything interesting for a living?" And I go, "Oh, geez." So I go, I did name a company after an appetizer, and he was a nice guy. And then I asked him about his job, or his profession. He owns an $85 million plumbing company with 400 employees with one other partner. Him and his partner make over $7 million a year running this. He said in 2014, they did like $2 million a year. I said, "What was your transformation?" And I talked to him about what was transformation. He said it was marketing. Marketing was our transformation. Marketing and systems. He said a great thing. You like this. So they don't take a job, Chris, unless they can answer these 3 questions. Is it for a homeowner? Will they pay up front? And will it take less than 3 days? I love that. So most of their jobs are $1,000 or less. So they do. So they have this niche, Entrepreneurs on Fire, niches and riches. They have a system, but I thought of people like you. And Dennis, marketing was what transformed them. So it's so important. And I think that's a great book. Well, thanks for hanging out with me. Chris, if you come to Philadelphia, we can shoot some threes and pretend, we're going to play in the senior NBA. Really appreciate you supporting our community.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.